So we were driving in the car, right, and it starts to snow outside. And then I said, "Oh man, it always snows on my birthday." And the guy beside me is like, "Oh, today's your birthday?" And I said, "No." And he just looked at me like I have two. Oh, hey guys, welcome to another. You probably all heard that. Don't mind that. Welcome to another edition of Differently Wired Show. My name is Maximilian Derrat, your friendly neighborhood Simpsons kin. Always telling you to stay yellow. And in case some people actually wonder what that actually means when I say it.
Yeah,
All
like me.
what?
Like me.
Yeah, well, yellow, like obviously I have yellow skin, but it has nothing to do with being racially yellow, because that just opens up a big can of worms. All you have to do to stay yellow is one, be awesome, and two, like The Simpsons. And if you don't like The Simpsons, then you're not awesome.
You're green.
You're green. Yeah, you're a Family Guy pleb. No, I'm kidding. I like Family Guy too. Anyways, doing the show with me as usual is my co-host John Tucker. John, what's happening?
I'm enjoying this wonderful, beautiful day in the virtual land that we're in.
What's the weather like in this virtual land that you occupy, John?
It is just as sunny as it is outside.
It's sunny every day. Yeah, it's. I suppose it depends on what kind of websites you go to. If you go to Twitter, then it's like the black clouds in the Matrix, like every single day. Like in the future. Anyways, we have a big show lined up for you guys. We have a topic that was suggested to us by a member of our Discord, which we'll be getting to in just a second. But first, I got to do the usual stuff. First of all, Facebook page. If you haven't liked it, why haven't you liked it? Come on, I know you guys have Facebook. Go there and like it, please. Helps us out a lot. And second of all, Discord server. We're nearing 350 members. I'm really proud of you guys. The community there is still very, very strong, very, very friendly. And surprisingly, very few complaints. I mean, considering the fact that, a lot of people that I've met online that are part of the Discord server tend to be gamers. Gamers can be quite volatile folks from time to time. Everybody's really, really nice there. Everybody, if somebody puts in let's see, what channels do I have? If somebody goes into the Asperger's chat or the mental health chat and they say they have a problem, people descend into there and like, hey, do you want to talk about it? And it's great. I'm really proud of everybody. And finally, I just want to see who's in the chat right now. I have the YouTube chat on the front page, or on the front page, on the video, on the stream. Hey guys, how's it going? Hi, Halo Metroid. Hi, Reverent Consciousness. I love that name. Luca. By the way, Luke, I got your email the other day. We're going to be addressing it in either the next show or the show after that, okay? Laney, Rickety Split, good to see you guys. All right, with that out of the way, let's go into the very first subject that we're going to be discussing today. And this was a topic that was proposed to me by, like I said, one of my Discord members. His name is Quilt. I don't think he'll mind if I say his full name. Quilt Chamberlain. Besides, I don't even think that's his real name. Who has the first name Quilt, anyways? Like, I've heard Quill. I don't know. I mean, like, Michael Jackson's third kid was named Blanket, so it's not out of the realm of possibility. Anyways, weird tangent. Quilt Chamberlain, he puts a comment in the Differently Wired chat in my Discord server, and I thought it would make for a good topic of discussion one of these days. So I'll just read you what he wrote to us in the Discord server, and then we'll just take the conversation from there. So he said, I re-listened to the employment and upward mobility episode, and I think it did cover some of the points I talked about in my original post. And before I continue reading what he said, we were talking about issues with employment while having Asperger's in this chat prior to this, and now I'm just reading what he said in response to that. Continuing. The only thing I would have liked to see a bit more of is the discussion around considering alternative career prospects. People with Asperger's tend to be very diligent regarding the things they are passionate about, but on the other hand, they struggle, much more than neurotypicals, to persist through tasks that are not engaging to them and could benefit from alternative career paths, such as a trade or an apprenticeship. where the work has an opportunity to be interesting and challenging, and folks can at least find a sense of independence and excitement in what they do. For what it's worth, I'm not seeking advice on this particular topic, but as someone who has successfully changed careers after bouncing around a few soul sucking jobs, I think that other people with Asperger's deserve to know what options they might have available to them. There are so many. That passion and diligence can really redefine someone's career trajectory, regardless of how late they started. And, for people with Asperger's, replacing that pre work dread every morning with a sense of purpose and fulfillment can make a monumental impact on someone's quality of life. Really enjoying the show. Cheers. And that's all that Chamberlain had to say. Well, first, I just want to. I sort of want to give the floor to John because I've felt like the last couple of episodes we haven't really given much time to talk. But I'll just say this very quickly. To that. Excuse me, I still got my cold. That last sentence that you said there, not the really enjoying the show part, but when you said replacing that pre-work dread every morning with a sense of purpose and fulfillment. Yeah, you're absolutely right, Quilt. Just addressing that issue head on and solving it provides people with Asperger's, including myself, a genuine, tangible sense of hope. Because the fact of the matter is, when it comes to people that have AS and trying to enter the working world, what they're trying to do is they're trying to adapt to the way things are when it comes to neurotypical behavior. And that makes sense, obviously, because the majority of people are neurotypical. But unfortunately, when you try to do that, you are compromised. You find yourself compromising certain elements of your being that you're very uncomfortable with. And if you don't strike the right balance once you miraculously attain a job, and you're on the job, and you're trying to make sure that you appeal to your boss's wishes, but also trying to look after your emotional well-being, it can become so chaotic that from time to time you'll just break down. And like Wilt Chamberlain said, in a lot of my own past working experiences, several of the jobs I was only there for 4 months until I got to the point where things just became too much for me emotionally, and I had to move on. So the core thing that we have to figure out here when it comes to people who have AS is you got to find what it is that they do, because I find this is the case for the majority of people that have AS. Find the thing that they do where it's productive and they enjoy it, hopefully, and they do it unconsciously. They don't even consider it work. They just do it because it provides them a sense of calm and a sense of productivity. And once you get that, then the feelings of depression, the feelings of meaninglessness that people who have AS might experience, and I'm speaking for myself particularly here, but for a lot of other people, once you get that, then things become so much better. Now, John, I'm not sure if we've made this public. I don't think there's any problem with it, but I met John because I used to be one of his clients, and he in particular helped me a lot in this regard. He noticed that I was struggling a lot when it came to my past jobs, as recently as 2 or 3 years ago, and he coached me in the right direction so that I could meet that personal fulfillment, or attain that personal fulfillment, rather. Now, John, I suppose maybe like one of the things you want to speak to is trying to figure out how your clients can get to that particular position, and what are some of your strategies, I guess is what I'm asking.
Sure. Sure, that's quite sensible. If you listen to various career counselors and try to sort of blend their advice, you're going to be going around in circles chasing your tail. Your first guidance counselor is yourself. That's where your career advice needs to come from first. You will have people saying to you, "Oh, you like playing the violin. That's not practical. You can't make a living at the violin. Oh, you want to be a video gamer. Well, you can't get a career out of that." All bullshit. You can. You can do those things that you love to do. And in fact, I was reading, I don't know where, something this morning about a course that they had set up at some post-secondary school for people who love video games to teach them to make their own games. And it was very fulfilling because they could, start from the ground up and build something that was their own creation. And so you can make careers out of things you like to do. People will tell you, oh, explore this because it's a waste of time. You can't get a good living out of it. That is really bad advice. You first have to go to yourself. And that's my first point. Um, I love the way Quilt Quilt talks about apprenticeships and trades. And I'm just thinking back to many years ago. We bought an old house and we hired this guy to come in and do electricity for us. We had to have some rewiring done. He had a white van, no lettering on it, and he was busy for like months ahead. He loved doing his electricity. His son was doing it as well. They sometimes would work together. He was doing a trade that he loved, and he was totally free to take clients that he choose to take or not choose to take. So I think trades and apprenticeship kind of approaches are underexploited by many of us in society. We've got a kind of a stigma going on about, oh, do apprenticeship. No, get a degree in psychology and then drive a van. What's the point? You really, really have a good look at that, because you might love working on something that's trade oriented. If that's what you love, that's what you'll be happiest at. You can start out working in a florist place, moving dirt around, and the next thing you know, in a few years' time, you're a high landscape architect earning obscene amounts of money doing something that looked like gardening, but now it's something much more sophisticated. So you need to follow that. Now, here's the other piece of it. When you're setting goals for yourself, they need to be small goals, little victories, tiny, winchy, itsy bitsy victories that move you in a direction that you like. Um, the alternative career prospect that I think is the greatest one is the one that gives you the most freedom from various kinds of bureaucratic red tape kind of work, filling in forms for people and showing up and being politically correct and all that kind of stuff. This is hard. You really want a fair bit of freedom to do exactly what you love to do, and then work that in so that it's saleable, workable. And my last point that I'm going to mention, and I'm always talking about Richard Bowles' book, What Color is Your Parachute? I'm working through that now with one or two clients, and we discovered that it's very helpful to buy the book and the fifth edition handbook, which is, another way for these guys to make money. But all the bits are laid out, so you don't have to go and organize it. It's all organized. So you got the book and you got this little workbook. And the workbook I'm finding very valuable if you really don't know yourself. The magic about this program is that it helps you know what your passions are. You might say, oh, I'm not sure what I'd like to do. Well, this book actually helps you lay that. It starts by getting you to know yourself. Very valuable. Anyway, sorry, Max, don't mean to cut you out.
No. You're not at all. That's everything that you said is really important. And what you just said about what color is your parachute, I know that it's what's the word? It's easy to be cynical about these sorts of things because people are like, oh, well, I've tried these things where I try to do personality tests and figure out what job I'd be most ideal with, and it doesn't help me out. Well, if that's the case, just by doing something like what you just said there, John, what color is your parachute workbook? Just by doing that, you have a way to lay out what your interests are, what your strengths are, where you could possibly improve, where you could spend a little bit less time, and where you can dedicate more of your time to just by doing that. And even if that doesn't get you tangibly anywhere at first, it's a step forward, like John just said, little steps forward. Beyond that,
Mm-hmm.
what I sort of also want to offer to people based on my own personal experience, if you have AS, there are a couple of different things that I recommend. First of all, I have said in the past that past the age of 18, it's kind of hard to get resources if you happen to be on the spectrum. And while that's true, that doesn't mean that resources are completely gone. One thing that I've noticed, at least in my area, and I'm certain there is at least one resource like this in a lot of your areas. There are organizations that do job training specifically for people that have AS. Like, for example, I can't remember the name of the organization that does it here in my province of Ontario. It's a religious, it's it's a religiously funded organization, and what they do is they look out to people who are on the spectrum, and they interview you. They try to figure out what your traits are, how what separates you from other people on the spectrum, and they try to figure out, okay, I think you would be best doing this particular type of job. And what we'll do is we'll try to get you the proper training so that we can put you in a job where you can get up in the morning, go do it, and you're not in a state of absolute peak existential dread every time you get in the car and you drive off, right? And just by doing that, it's actually garnered a lot of success based on the research that I did in regards to something like this. There was one other thing I wanted to say, but I just keep losing my train of thought. Oh yeah, it's like people are also asking me, how much can a diagnosis for AS really do for me? Well, in situations like this, if you want to get job training and you're on the spectrum and you want an ideal job that caters to your, I don't want to say eccentricities, but you know what I mean. It's if you just get a diagnosis, that's all you need to be able to qualify for job training like that. And that's one ideal example. And of course, there are other different organizations that can provide you emotional support or psychologists and stuff like that. But that's as per usual. John?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Something just occurred to me that we have.
John?
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, okay. Sorry. You sort of
Yeah.
broke up there. Okay, my bad. Go ahead.
Yeah, there's some kind of, but we'll muddle through it. Occurred to me that I don't think we've quite talked about before. Now, we know coaching can be helpful for people who are struggling with various kinds of neurobiological issues, but not everybody can afford a coach. I just realized that we often will recommend to people that they have a body double, a study buddy, um, somewhere that's friendly. Like two people that are in the chat room might be able to talk to one another and help each other. It's kind of being fostered in your Discord server. But it seems to me that if you share your goals and plans with a similarly minded person who is not out to hurt you, it might be nice to kind of create a kind of a virtual coaching situation where two people say, "Well, I'm working on this, and I find that," and so you can sort of have this conversation, just helping one another.
Yeah, and just bouncing ideas off of each other.
Yeah,
And what's
yeah,
great is that because you're doing it on Discord and you're just doing it through text, or you can do it through voice if you're comfortable enough. But if you're socially anxious and you don't like the sound of your, or you're anxious and self-conscious about the sound of your voice, you can just
yep,
join my Discord server and talk to people there.
yep.
Yep. Perfect. I'm glad you brought that up, John. Yeah, I'm sure there are other people that might have questions from respect to how I got to where I am and how I was able to overcome that existential dread and find a sense of purpose in the work that I was doing without it killing me. If you have any questions in respect to that, I highly recommend that you guys bring them up later on in the show, either by submitting them via the super chat function at the very bottom of the page, or if you don't want to spend any money, I understand, go to Twitter and use the hashtag differentlywired, all one word, and we can talk more about that. With that out of the way, I want to jump into the next segment of the show, if I can just get OBS to cooperate with me. That is the mailbag question. Now, I'm going to be repeating myself, but just in case you guys weren't paying attention, if you want to have a question of yours discussed on the show, whether it's in the mailbag segment or during the live question segments, which we usually have at the very end of the show, there are two ways you can do that. One, you can submit a mailbag question to be a part of the mailbag segment by emailing me at maxderrat@yahoo.ca. That's maxderrat, all one word. And every week we pick 2 or 3 emails to choose to talk about from my email. And God, I'm so tired. I'm sorry, guys. I don't know if you could sense it in my voice. Or if you don't want to do that, if you have a much more succinct question that you want to ask, just go to Twitter and use the hashtag differentlywired, or use the super chat function at the very bottom of the page. With that out of the way, let's get to the very first email that we received. And the very first email we have today comes to us from Ramon Gonzalez. Sorry, I got to roll my R. Ramon Gonzalez, forgive me. Had an... how do you pronounce that?
Ischemic.
Ischemic. Okay. Had an ischemic stroke in 2015 that left me with brain damage, and since then I have been progressing, but many times I write very bad, and problems and stress overwhelm me. Thinking in a math or doing programming gives me headaches. And writing this email, I feel like I'm going up in an elevator, but I learned how to deal with these because I returned to my old hobby of drawing, and I got all the time that I need. Brain damage is not what people think. But the most cool experience was remembering my life sometime, stuff in my surroundings trigger them. I was looking at videos about remembering the 80s cartoon of my childhood and watching the Thundercats intro and started crying because I lived our family in the living room watching the same intro and my screaming the Mum Ra villain scene. I used to think on suicide, but memories saved me. Now I do my art and live every day at a time. And then he provided his Instagram, his Facebook, and his Twitter. So if you guys want to go check out his art, I've checked it out. It's pretty good. Just use one of those ats that you see at the bottom of the screen there. John, before the show started, you and I were actually talking about Ramon Gonzalez, and you actually brought up a couple of really interesting things. You said you were particularly fascinated by what he said, as I was, too.
Yeah, brain damage works out differently for everybody, but it can be ameliorated, worked on in a number of ways. There's more and more research on an almost daily basis on neuroplasticity. We know brains can be changed. And Norman Doidge, the psychiatrist, I think he's based in Toronto, who doesn't do psychiatry anymore, he just goes around talking about neuroplasticity and writing books that are very popular. So if you're wondering about neuroplasticity, he's the guy to go. The brain that changes itself. Anyway, he's got a couple of books. I've seen this guy talking, very clever, and it's interesting that if you are like Ramon, following your passion, you can find your way through stuff, and your brain gets better as you do that. Now, that's not my field, but I've read and heard enough about it, talked to enough people. I used to go to, the Brain Injury Association Canada conferences for several years because I was so interested. There's so many parallels between neurobiological challenges and the stuff that certain kinds of concussions and so on can do, and strokes can. But you can work through these things, and I think he's kind of a hero. The way he's focusing on one day at a time. He was in a dark place, but he's got himself through it, and now he's doing that thing that gives him a sense of joy and productivity. Well done.
Yeah, I was trying to speak there, but my I accidentally muted my mic. Sometimes the mute button doesn't turn off or on when I want it to. But yeah, just in response to everything that you were saying there, John, it's true that just by setting a particular goal for yourself and striving towards it, it allows you to survive some of the most horrific situations. And my evidence of this, John cited his, but my evidence is a book that I've referenced a number of times in past episodes of the show. It's A Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. And one thing that I want to point out in that I read in that book is that towards the end of Viktor Frankl's, for those of you who don't know, the book is about a man named Viktor Frankl, who's a psychologist, and his experiences in the Nazi concentration camps. And what he noted was, in terms of the people who survived and did not survive, one piece of evidence that he cited in support of a theory, which I'll address in a second, is that around Christmas time and New Year's time, I think it was at the end of 1944, it was around that time that the majority of the people who were still alive inside the concentration camps died. And it's because they were living until then in the hopes that around that time something joyous might happen, because, Christmas and New Year's are special times of the year. But when it didn't happen, unfortunately, that lack of hope led to a lot of people's deaths. And there are numerous examples of that in Viktor Frankl's book. But the hopeful thing that Viktor Frankl wanted to communicate was that by having that goal ahead of you, and seeing the suffering that you're going through as a spiritual moment, so that it actually pays off in fulfilling that goal, it becomes all the greater of an achievement. And the example that he gave was how one day he was just so fed up with everything, his situation and how he would survive. But then he had a vision of himself lecturing at a university somewhere about the horrors of the concentration camp. And just having that picture in his mind about, okay, I got to survive so that I can tell people about what happened, and we can derive great lessons from the evil that was demonstrated during that period of time. It would be knowledge that would last generations and millions of people would find valuable. And what do you know? His experiences inside the Nazi concentration camps, when he wrote about it in Man's Search for Meaning, that book has sold to date over 12 million copies. So you just gotta put that goal in front of you and see that, hey, the suffering that I'm going through right now, I can transfigure that. And once I get to the end, people will look upon me with respect for the tribulations that I went through. You just got to be willing to put your story out there, And I'm really glad that Ramon here did. And I think at the root of that is exactly why John and I find Ramon's story so satisfying and fascinating. Anyways, thank you very much for sending that in to us, Ramon. We'll go on to the next question. The next question comes to us from Rebecca. Rebecca writes, "Hiya, Max." Hiya, Rebecca. "This may seem kind of silly, but I'm having the hardest time finding a boyfriend. I want a good match, and sadly, once I have a boyfriend, things don't go much better. I have an extremely hard time decoding dating. If I haven't found a great relationship yet, should I give up? Could I be happiest alone? Should I just stop dating neurotypicals? I know this is a lofty question. I've always wanted to get married, and try as I might, things just seem to become harder the older I get. I'm not that old, I'm 30, but no guys are knocking down my door. I also just got my diagnosis this year, and I've been to peers, but no other program, no other support growing up. Should I just stop thinking about this and hope the right person approaches me? I have a hard time on first dates and don't want to go online. I'm not very good at flirting body language at all. I'm always my regular self. Can I drop really good verbal clues or something? I'm so baffled. I would really like a solid partner in life. Thank you for reading/considering this, and thank you for your channel." This comes to us from Rebecca. My throat is sort of tripping. John, can you just take over for a second, please?
Absolutely. You say, Rebecca, should I give up? No. If you were 97, maybe. But actually,
Come on, John.
I was thinking.
There are people. There's always people, even at that age.
I was actually going to tell you a short story about that. My great aunt had a long and happy marriage, but her husband eventually died. And when she was in her early 80s, she bumped into her childhood sweetheart, and he was about 90. And they got together for a chat or two, but they actually, this is kind of cute, they stopped seeing each other because they thought people would talk. And she came to me and said, we get together, but it's only for companionship. So here's this girl in her early 80s with this guy 90, and it's just for companionship. They don't want people to talk. No, you don't ever have to give a dream. If you want to get married and have kids and all that kind of stuff, sure. You need a plan, though. You need some sort of stuff that helps you get that going. Now, I believe the best plan is to find a friend who will give you a hand with it in various kinds of ways. They can go with you to places you want to go and meet people. They can help you with conversations, meeting people. But underneath all that, you need to go to places and do things that you actually like doing. So if you meet somebody there, you don't have to try to convince them to go with you to some other place. I'll give you a silly example. Like, say you like going to art galleries. Well, you go to more art galleries. Go to art galleries as much as you can, because that's where you'll meet people which share your interests. It's a shame about going online that you don't want to do it, because going online can solve a lot of the other things about verbal cues and so on, and it gives you time to respond. But what sometimes can happen is somebody can help you with going online. You can set it up so you're anonymous, and you can sort of. In fact, I do this with some clients. I go online for them, and I do the sort of interim stuff and help them. So online has advantages. Get your mind around doing it. Anything else about dating neurotypicals? I'm not sure if it matters much. It's more a question of empathy and kindness and graciousness. That person might be a neurotypical. That person may not be. I don't know if that's the actual acid test for someone who will be the right person for you.
Yeah. Does it really matter if they're neurotypical or neuroatypical? I would think that in some circumstances it would be beneficial if they are neuroatypical, because if you're having problems with verbal cues, as we all do, maybe it might be beneficial to seek out somebody that is on the spectrum like you are, because if you want people to be very direct with, they're the best people to go to. And trust me, like it's a whole lot easier. People with AS, they're desperate to. A lot of people, I wouldn't say desperate. Sorry, that's a strong word. They crave friendships and companionships. They just don't like all the work that comes along with it. So yeah, I'd highly recommend going up to people who are neuroatypical and talking to them. Also, what was the other thing I wanted to say? Yeah, you don't want to go online. Like, why is that? Like, what is it about being online that is so repulsive to you? Because, like what John said, if you struggle with body language and verbal cues, you can take your time when talking to people online. I find myself, especially when I talk to women, I tend to be a lot more witty and humorous. And especially, it helps when this is the first time that you're making the first impression, and because you never have a second time to make a first impression, right? And once you get over that initial hurdle, I find myself being able to be very comfortable with them. It's always that first time, right? So I'd like to know, maybe if you could email us back what your reservations are in regards to talking to people online, and maybe we can expand upon doing this a little bit more. Yeah, I don't have much else to say about that. See, unfortunately, I'm not as successful when it comes to dating. I find it's a little bit too much effort, especially when there's a bunch of other stuff that I want to do. But yeah, it's just one of those things. John, do you have anything else you wanted to say?
Only one thing, and that is that what you've written here, Rebecca, should more or less come out early in the conversation or early in the dating that you're in, because what you have written here sounds very sincere and articulate and clear. So, and it's not pretentious in any way. So that should be like your, not exactly a script, but it should be your notes for a conversation that you have with somebody. So you don't go through a long process of miscommunicating stuff.
Hmm.
I like the way you've presented yourself here.
Yeah, you absolutely. Yeah, you presented yourself very well. All right.
Hmm.
Thanks. We hope to hear from you again soon if you want to continue this conversation, Rebecca. Moving on to the final question today. This question comes to us from Daniel, and Daniel writes, "Hi, Max. I recently started to watch your videos, and I think your best works are the ones of MGS2 and Spec Ops. Oh, thanks so much, dude. I really enjoyed doing those videos, and I'm glad people got so much. I get a lot of positive response from those things. Thank you for your hard work. I know that this sentence alone sounds blunt at first sight, but I want to skip the usual formalities for the sake of time and your viewers if you're live streaming. I'm going to attempt to articulate the points I want to make in order to put my questions precisely to not set any kind of misunderstanding. Dude, thank you. Thank you. We really appreciate that, especially during the mailbag segments. As an artist with Asperger's, I like drawing webcomics and writing despite the short amount of free time I've got due to my job, and I don't consider it a problem since I got ways to get more free time, such as sleeping less and gaming less. I'm facing, however, a constant problem when it comes to showcasing my art to new boundaries while I'm having a small following compared to other artists. So basically, when a work is done, I post it to my usual social media pages and that's it. But I don't post that work on subreddits or community groups that I'm not familiar with. I am aware that I should be more adventurous on engaging on new territory, so to speak, but for some reason the feeling of fear invades my mind. No matter how many motivational quotes I got an entire folder, how many motivational quotes I have in my desktop background, or even listening to music that once saved me when I was in despair a very long time ago. Some may say that I'm looking for attention, and it's true, I am. Well, don't feel bad about that, dude. If you're putting out your work online, that's what you need to do. I don't mind much putting my work to the internet and see silent viewers watch my work, but even tiny amounts of encouragement in comment sections are huge boosts to me, motivating me to draw more. Because if you do stuff and nothing happens, is there any meaning to it? Or meaning of it? I guess my main question becomes, how do I defeat this state of fear in my mind in order to voluntarily show up in unfamiliar territory? Thanks again for your well done work in your YouTube channel, and thanks for reading. Take care. Well, dude, thanks so much for taking the time to watch my videos, especially the ones that you cited, the Spec Ops The Line and the Metal Gear ones. Those are pretty long videos, so thanks for sticking around for those. One thing well, not just one thing, a few things. If you're putting out your work online and you're really worried about how people might respond or if anybody will even pay attention, obviously, dude, as a YouTuber and somebody that puts his own work out online, I totally feel you there. I'll give you a couple pieces of advice. One thing that really helped me overcome the fear is choosing to stay anonymous, so that if God forbid, and this rarely ever happens, especially if you stay anonymous and you're just putting out your work just because you want to and you do it because you enjoy it. Even though there are trolls, trolls only really come along once you actually start to get a really big following. Most people, when it comes to the artistic community, tend to be very positive, and when they do criticize you, they tend to be very constructive. But yeah, if you're worried about everybody coming and saying, "Oh, this is absolute crap," one thing that you can do to sort of minimize your fear of embarrassment is just by staying anonymous. That's what I did. Secondly, if you want to improve, well, how are you going to do that without getting any feedback? See, unfortunately, I liken what, excuse me, I liken the fear that you're feeling right now sort of to the fear that I had when I was younger and I used to perform on stage. You know, prior to getting on stage and performing music or acting, there's always that frog in your throat and those butterflies in your stomach. But once you actually step out on stage, yeah, everything just sort of seems to fall into place, especially if you're creatively minded like I am, and I'm sure that you are, and you get to work and, the motors start running. Things start to not seem as bad. So what I recommend for you with the work that you're doing, first of all, is obviously do it anonymously, as I just said. And you sort of have to do it. You sort of just have to do it. But you can't really expect much out of it at first. You sort of just have to do it for the passion of it and see if it takes you anywhere. Because that's what I did. Like, when I started my YouTube channel, I just did it just to do it. I didn't think anything would come of it. And I just kept at it. And if you're worried about, not being able to stick to it and not being able to create an audience. What you sort of need to do, if you're really, really passionate about what you do, like what you just said about webcomics, you need to find a way to sort of incorporate the work that you put online into your daily routine, and you got to do it unconsciously. So take, for example, me, when I was doing YouTube in my early days, I just told myself, okay, I need to do this. Even if I put out a video that I'm not entirely happy with, at least I'm putting out a video. And the more that I do that, and the more that becomes a part of your daily routine, eventually after a while, you start to gain a following. You start to get 100 subscribers, and you get 500 subscribers, and you get 1,000 subscribers, and you celebrate those milestones for yourself, right? And finally, I will get John in here in a second. If you want to sort of get your work seen by more people, I know you said you're resilient. Not the word. Is it resilient or reticent? You're generally just afraid of putting your work out on community forums or subreddits. That is one of the things you really need to do if you want to promote your creative work. Like, for example, I released a video 2 days ago on in regards to a character from a video game called Silent Hill. And a lot of the views that I got came from me posting them on Silent Hill fan groups on Facebook, right? And it's from those types of people that love a particular form of art, be it like visual art or games or movies or books or music, whatever. It's those people in those fans forums that will be most likely to give you proper constructive feedback that will help you improve and help you gain a bigger audience. That's just based on my experience. John, anything you want to add there?
Yeah, the main question was, how do I defeat this state of fear in my mind in order to voluntarily show up in unfamiliar territory? And I'm thinking, with fear, you can face your fears, be a hero, or you can sneak up on it and smack it in the head from behind. So I'm thinking a possible strategy in this situation might be to ignore that problem for a little while and find a less sensitive boundary. Maybe you part your hair a different way, or something that's a tiny bit different, and just dabble with the idea of experimentation in unfamiliar territory in a much less sensitive, much less worrisome area. So you can broaden your experience of pushing boundaries. And that will probably give you some practice at how you feel about overcoming the smaller boundaries. I know it may sound like a kind of cowardly way. I don't think it is. I think it's
No.
probably a good way to move from the familiar and the safe to a slightly less safe, a little bit more chancy. And it might be small things. It might be, putting in less sugar in your coffee. I don't know, something that's different, that gives you a sense that you're alive in the world and you're creating new edges.
Yeah, you're venturing out into new territory that you're not exactly comfortable with. But once you demonstrate to yourself that, hey, I did this, I overcame it, then you can apply that to other aspects of your life. And that's really important that you brought up there, John. It doesn't necessarily have to be in regards to the profession that you're pursuing. It could be with anything. Like you just said, putting less tea in your tea, less sugar in your tea. I mean, you could put less tea in your tea, although it probably wouldn't taste that great.
I always put more tea in my tea.
Yeah, me too. I like my tea strong. How do you like your coffee? Black, like my men. No. You ever see Airplane, John?
Long time ago, yeah.
Okay, so you know that joke.
Yeah.
Just
moving right along.
Yeah, moving. No. Sorry. Can we just talk about Airplane for just 1 second? I just 10 seconds, guys. I got a friend of mine to watch Airplane recently, and I sort of sold it to her by saying my favorite line from any movie is in this movie, and she's like, "Oh, what line is that?" And I said, "You'll know it when you hear it." And she's like, "Oh, okay." And then she called me up afterwards, and she's like, "Yeah, so I'm guessing your favorite line is the one about the coffee?" And I'm like, "Yep." So there you go. Airplane, great movie. Anyways, with that out of the way, let's go on to the final segment of the show. But before we do that, I just want to ask you guys that are watching right now. There are 36 of you in the live chat, but there's only 14 likes. What's up with that? Hey, come on, guys. Pick up the pace. It's free. Come on. It helps us out. If you believe in what we're doing here, all you have to do is hit that like button. It helps us out because it tells the YouTube algorithm that the content on this channel is worth watching. It passes it around to a whole bunch of more people, putting in their recommended feeds. It is our job. It's our. I can't talk. It is my continued mission, as well as John's continued mission, to completely dominate the internet. Obviously,
And world.
And worlds, and potentially the universe. I know that's a bit lofty.
There you go.
We will get there someday. It's not going to happen immediately. It takes a while.
Small steps, you know.
Yes, exactly. Small steps, like we were just saying. And what could be more demonstrative of that ideology than just hitting that like button? See, there you go. You guys, I love you listen. Yeah, I love my fans. All right, let's move on to the final segment of the show, which is the Taking Your Calls segment. Normally at the end of every show, we like to save some time to go to our Discord and talk to a couple people if they have a question that is related to their own life circumstances or just a general question. We like to talk to you people there. That's one of the benefits of joining the Discord server. You can sign up and talk to us. So first of all, I'm going to unmute one of the two people that we have waiting, and he goes by, you've heard him on the show before. He is Jeebs. Jeebs, look alive. What's happening, man?
Hello.
What's poppin', player?
Nothing much. I'm celebrating Discord's birthday
What?
with my yeah, it's in a couple days. Or it's on the 13th, but I'm celebrating it a little early. I always celebrate it a little early.
Oh, do you just go? How do you celebrate? Do you just go around to people leaving at everyone notifications?
No, you for anyone who isn't on Discord, when Discord's birthday rolls around, which is May 13th, everyone's profile picture turns to, it's actually periwinkle, but it's called blurple, is what Discord likes to call it. And so what my profile picture is here, I'll just link it real quick in the little group DM. But
okay.
Sorry.
Do you mind if I put it up on screen when you send it to me?
Oh yeah, sure.
Okay.
My profile picture normally. Let me just upload both these files. Start scanning through phone as quick as possible.
Yeah. How old is Discord? Like, when did it originally come out?
I think it's like 5 years old now.
Wow. Okay.
5, 6.
And now everybody uses it because Skype is such a piece of crap. As we've.
Yeah, it really. I'm gonna. Why?
Why is Skype a piece of crap?
Yeah.
Well, it's because John and I have used it, tried to use it multiple times when we started the show out, and it would always break up.
I'm more so asking it like. Anyways, that's what I have my profile picture as now, but that's what I usually have it as.
Okay.
So what you do is you just take your profile picture and you put a blurple filter on it, which is that it just turns it into that shade of color. Those shades of color. There's also white in there sometimes, but my profile picture just came out.
Gosh, the internet's a weird place.
Yeah, it is.
I don't understand. I don't understand the joke. See, that's the problem when it comes to...
It's less so a joke and more so just, hey, there's finally a voice chat platform that doesn't suck. Let's celebrate.
Exactly. So I just put your profile picture up on screen right now. Apparently what is going to happen in the next few days is it's going to turn to a shade of pure purple.
Well, blurple, which is like a blue purple. It's like very blue, very purple. It's very winkle, but...
So
they don't want you to know that.
So like violet?
Yeah, basically violet, periwinkle, sort of in between there.
Just call it violet. I don't. Okay, whatever. Anyways, fun trivia, dude. So what did you want to talk about while we have you?
All right. I wanted to bring up something very specific that sort of just came into my head was how hyperfocus works with AS and how it affects I don't know how to exactly put this, addiction in things that are not normally addictive, causing an addictive personality. And in certain things, being able to hyperfocus on something is very good, but when, for instance, for me, I play video games and I have to be very careful in what I play because I have AS. Because if I say pick up something like World of Warcraft, I'm throwing my life away once I pick something up.
Oh yeah, me too.
This is sort of a warning, and don't pick up games like that if you have AS. You typically will, if you like it. If you don't like it, you don't like it. You sort of move on after a couple hours, and you get your money's worth and then just move on or whatever. But then if you do like it, that's when you open up the hole. And that's when you need to really self-moderate and make sure you don't go overboard.
Yeah, World of Warcraft, I used to play a bit of that back in the day. And twice in my life, I had to have an intervention with myself and say, okay, look, you're either going to let this video game consume every aspect of your life, or you're going to try and be productive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I chose the latter, thankfully. Although, God, that game, World of Warcraft, it is the digital equivalent of cocaine. Don't ask me how I'm able to make that comparison. I might tell you if you join my Discord server. Anyways, no, but yeah, MMORPGs, those are massive multiplayer online role-playing games. Don't. If you have AS, just don't. Regular video games are difficult enough to regulate yourself with, but if you go to games like that, not a good idea. Although I will say, if a MMORPG version of Pokemon ever comes out one day, I think the world is going to end anyways because everybody will just start playing Pokemon together. So
I mean, we were so close with Pokemon Go. If Niantic actually made a good game instead of a fad, we would all be dead.
Yeah. Well, see, the thing is, the reason why they haven't done that yet is because the Pokemon stuff that they already put out already generates so much money that they're just waiting until Pokemon finally starts to die out, and then be like, "Hey, here's the thing you guys always wanted," and then world economies will cease to function.
Why do you need economy when you can just trade Rattata?
Yeah, exactly. Just trade Rattata. Come on. Don't hate on Rattata. He's a cute character. John has no idea what the hell we're talking about.
Nope, none at all.
Yeah,
I thought Pokemon was a little doll.
It is. I mean, like, if your knowledge of it goes so far as Pikachu, I mean, he is the mascot of the franchise, and he has a movie coming out on Friday, which I'll probably see. Yeah,
I've heard it's rather good.
Yeah, I heard it's pretty good. Which is surprising because video game movies, on the whole, tend to suck.
Sonic.
Yeah, really bad. Well, come on, we don't know if it's out yet, but until it's out. But
at least we have, Jim Carrey.
Yeah, that man is going to get permanent back pain for the rest of his life because he's going to be carrying that movie all the way to the end. Honestly. That's even though I just said wait until Sonic comes out to see how it is, yeah, it looks pretty bad. So is that sort of the core message you wanted to get across to people? Don't play MMO?
And I sort of wanted to explain my experience.
Oh, please.
Quick.
Yeah.
I used to, through my life, and I used to pick up a lot of games, and the games that, if for those people who do legitimately like that style of game, you're going to need to find stuff sort of that's more mobile gamey in that genre. If you do crave that type of stuff, but you can't handle, you're just too addicted to it and you're going to throw away your life. I personally, like, Nintendo has a couple games that I would say are good. I'd say Animal Crossing.
Oh, yeah.
Which is coming out on the Switch, actually, sometime this year.
Cool.
And Splatoon. And that's my personal drug of choice. I mean, game. My profile picture is from it, but...
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's just a derpy version. By the way, credit to the artist Bean, who made this.
You're the man, Bean.
Yep. Woman, but,
You're the woman, Bean.
But for stuff like that, try and play something that doesn't require you to dump your time in, or it gets worse with dumping your time in, because what Nintendo has done is they've made sure that at most, it's only really good if you spend like a couple hours in the game, and then you should go off and do your actual life. At most a couple hours is what you should put in when playing the game.
That's actually a really good point about Nintendo games in particular, because the way a lot of their most popular games are structured is exactly like that. You have a great time for a couple hours, and then you allow yourself to put down the game and go and do other stuff. Like the Mario games in particular. I remember some of my fondest gaming experiences was playing Super Mario Sunshine. I play that for 2 hours, and I can put it down no problem. I come back to it and have another great experience. And that's sort of consistent with all the other Mario games that have come out since then, like Super Mario Galaxy. What was the one that came out for the Switch?
Odyssey, which is my favorite.
Yeah, I heard it's really good. Unfortunately, I don't own a Switch. But yeah, if you want to go for games like that, you'll find that where you could just play them for a little bit and not worry about them sucking up your life. Single player games are really, really good places to go, where you just have the campaign, you have a great time with it, and there's not much else to it. So if you're looking to play certain games, you just do a search online, look for single player games specifically, and you'll be able to enjoy it while also remaining productive. So with that all said, Jeeves, thank you so much for coming on and sharing with us. Hopefully we can get your girlfriend on next time, as we were discussing. Unfortunately, I'd love to continue to talk with you. Obviously, I love games, but we have one caller waiting, and we're almost at the end of the show.
All right.
So thanks for coming, dude. And we'll move on to Harry. Harry, speak aloud.
Yeah, here I am. Can you hear me, guys?
Yeah, we can hear you, dude.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Thank you.
So what's happening, Big Papa?
Well, first, let me know if I still hold the title for your only non-native English speaker here in the show.
Oh, well, you seem to be doing a pretty good job right now, dude. So don't worry about it.
I don't know, but let me know if I still hold the title for the only one.
No, we've had a couple people on here, from Finland and from the Netherlands. Surprisingly.
Okay, but I was the first. I don't care.
Yes, you are honorably the first. It's fine. All right.
Well, first, let me share something with you.
Okay.
Here it is, something that I found out like a couple of days ago. First, it's in Spanish, but I'm gonna break it down for you. It says the year in pixels.
Hold on. Let me just bring this up so I can put it on the screen so everybody can see. This will just take 10 seconds, guys. Just bear with me.
I will break it down in English because it is in Spanish. That's my native language.
Yeah. Okay. I got it. Let me just minimize it a bit. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. It says on the far right, it says year in pixels. Year 2019, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's just a graph that you can put on all of your or your moods throughout the year, every day. I mean, it says almost. Down there it says fantastic, excellent day in. That's pink, I believe. The first color. I don't know. Bear with me. I'm also colorblind.
Yeah. No, that's pink. Yeah, you're right.
Okay. Next one is blue. Is light blue, which says pretty good or happy day. The next one says normal or average day. The next one says exhaust or tiring day.
Mm-hmm.
The next one, I don't know what color is that. It says
purple.
Depressed or purple.
Or periwinkle. Sorry. Go ahead.
It says depressed or sad day. The next one is stressed or frenetic day, and the next one is frustrated or angry day. So you just go every day and put on the color of the mood you had that day. That's your day throughout in pixels.
And did you make this?
No, I didn't make it, but I got they sent me to me via WhatsApp.
Oh, okay. This is actually I'm looking at this right now. I think I might actually want to try something like this because I've been sort of experiencing mood swings myself, and doing this, if I do this for a while and I start to sense negative or positive patterns, it could really help me figure out how I want to plan my days so I can be more productive, so that I'm not feeling so negative, because I haven't been feeling that well lately. So I thank you for introducing this to me, Harry. This is something I might want to adopt, actually. John, have you ever recommended people do something like this?
I haven't seen anything exactly like this. I think it's fabulous, and there's two reasons. One is you're tracking stuff and seeing patterns emerge, which will be helpful. But the more important thing that Harry has brought with this is that you objectify that feeling. So you stand back from it and it becomes more of a research than a suffering. If you're in a bad mood, you're saying, "Oh, I see. I was in a bad mood that day. Oh, but I wasn't this." And you're looking at it in a more sort of studious, academic, objective way, and that will help actually alleviate your the intense feelings of whatever it is. You're being objective. But that's a beautiful
Yeah, I'm going to
piece.
see.
And it's also nice. I'd love to do that for you and see what the colors became. I can see rather interesting
Okay,
potential patterns.
I'm going to check if I can maybe translate it into English. That would be really good, and I will share it in Discord.
Okay.
That'd be great.
And then the next thing I wanted to talk about, I know. Oh my goodness, the time is over.
Harry, is it okay if we'd be happy to have you on next week if you wanted to discuss more whatever you have, because this is already great. I'd love to hear what else you have to say later on.
Yeah, because this week's subject was about job prospects, and I was going to talk about it. So yeah, can I that next week?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll put you at the front of the list.
Okay, I will try to be there.
All right.
Try my best.
Thanks so much, Harry, for bringing this to our attention. Anyways, we'll have to meet you now because we have to end the show. But thank you so much. Gracias, muchos gracias.
A la orden. You're welcome.
Awesome. Okay, thanks, dude. All right. Finally, John, we have hit the hour mark, but we did have a couple of Twitter questions. You want to just bang those out real quickly?
I have to be rather quick.
Okay. We'll just do one. Okay, this one comes to us from Kitty. I see a couple other people here. Zachary Ansel, we'll get to you next week, I promise. Kitty asks, I have ADHD and I am in 11th grade. I am planning on going to college in the future. I have a lot of problems with time management when dealing with homework and assignments, along with remembering details. What would be your advice? Routine. That's just in the most simplest of terms. Making sure that you lay out your days to a T and doing your best to adapt to those routines. So that way, once again, you can do things unconsciously without having the responsibilities completely overwhelm you. That's my basic advice at right off the bat. John, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, a couple of things. One is, if it's at all possible, get up the same time every day.
Yes.
Every day, get up the same time. Every day, get up the same time. Every day, get up the same time. Okay, that's 1 or 7. The other thing is, it's good to practice a routine where you start doing things you love and you make sure you schedule them in a reasonable proportion. Not just the miserable, soul-sucking homework you got, but schedule in something nice, a break, a cup of tea, or whatever it is. But get a routine going so that your brain starts to recognize patterns. And then you can work in some of the more difficult stuff. Not just hard stuff, but nice stuff.
Yeah, and once you do that, once you actually establish that routine, deviating away from the routine actually becomes as stressful as trying to stick with the routine in the first place. At least that's what I found in regards to my life and trying to set up routines for myself. And what John just said there about trying to take some time for yourself, it is absolutely important. I've found in the last couple of months when working on my YouTube channel, I've been trying to put a lot of research into the videos that I do. And at times I just find myself burning out, even though I know I want to dedicate as much heart and soul towards what I'm doing. You just need to take an hour or two to do something that you want. And I found recently I stepped away and I just played video games for a while. And when I came back to doing my work, I was energized and I was able to perform at my ideal rate. So, hopefully that adequately addresses your question. Now, unfortunately, we have run out of time. We will get to the other Twitter questions. We'll probably address them right off the top at the beginning of next week's episode. Anyways, thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. I just want to do the usual housekeeping stuff before we end. If you want to see your question on the Differently Wired show, the two ways that you do it are, one, by email. Send your questions anytime to maxderrat@yahoo.ca. We pick one or two or three questions, depending on what time is available to us every single week. Your question, I can guarantee within an episode or two, we will get to your question. So don't feel afraid that your question is going to be lost in the shuffle. We will get to it. And also, if you want to submit live questions during the show, the two ways that you can do that are obviously by Twitter, by using the hashtag that you see on screen now, which is hashtag differentlywired. Or if you want to support the show financially, you can do it using the super chat. And finally, if you want to support the show beyond the super chat function and participating during the live chat, the two best ways you can do it are by obviously you can donate to the show by using the PayPal link that you see in the description box, but I understand not everybody has the financial means. The most important thing that you guys can do to help us out is just taking this video or any of the other videos on my channel that you like and sharing them around. Share them with somebody that might really, really need it. I'm speaking specifically more so about the mental health and autism related videos that I've done, not so much the video game videos, although you can share those too. Just share them with somebody that might be going through some stuff right now and might need somebody to talk to about their problems. Maybe they need some resources that they desperately need at a particular point in their lives. We really, really like to speak to those people. With that all said, I want to thank John, as usual. Thanks for sticking around for the extra few minutes. I know you really got to go. And
I gotta go. Thank you. You're welcome.
And we'll talk to you. I'll talk to you next week, John. And I'll talk to everybody that's watching right now next week. Thanks so much for participating. And until next week, stay yellow.